There's a machine in that room, a screen, a slow green line, a number telling you the heartbeat is steady and the baby is fine. You probably didn't look twice at it. It was just there, quiet and reliable, doing its work. Now take it away. Remove the epidural, the sterile room, the surgeon 2 minutes down the hall. Add darkness, add cold, add the absolute certainty that if something goes wrong, no one with formal training is coming. Same body, same baby, same narrow passage. That part hasn't changed in 2 million years. What has changed is everything around it. Walking upright rewired the human pelvis. And then the brain began to grow, faster than any primate before or since. The result was a collision, mechanical, biological, unavoidable, at the single moment of birth. The question isn't why this was dangerous. The question is how women survived it at all. Generation after generation, without surgery, without antibiotics, without a single instrument a modern obstetrician would recognize, across hundreds of thousands of years. The survival rate was not perfect. But it was enough. Here is the architecture of the problem. Bipedalism reshaped the pelvis somewhere between 5 and 7 million years ago, narrowing and rotating the outlet to stabilize upright walking. Then, starting around 2 million years ago, the brain began a rapid expansion, tripling in size. A wider pelvis would ease birth. A narrower pelvis is better for walking. Evolution could not give both at once. The compromise: deliver the baby before it is finished. A human newborn arrives with roughly 25% of its adult brain already formed. A newborn chimpanzee is neurologically far more complete at birth. We are born, in the most literal biological sense, early. And being born early creates a specific mechanical crisis that no amount of courage could solve alone. One that left marks in bones and burials long before anyone thought to write it down. The birth canal does not run straight. It twists. The inlet faces one direction, the outlet faces another. To get through, the baby must navigate a series of movements: flexion, descent, rotation, extension, and final realignment, working through a passage that barely accommodates its head. At the end of that sequence, the infant almost always emerges face down, oriented away from the mother, face toward the floor. That single anatomical fact carries enormous consequences. In most other primates, the infant exits facing the mother. She can see it, reach down, guide it, catch it. In human birth, she cannot. The baby arrives behind her line of sight, turning in a direction her hands cannot easily follow. Rosenberg and Trevathan, in their 1995 paper in Evolutionary Anthropology, made the implication explicit. Routinely assisted birth is not a product of medical progress. It is a feature of human biology, as old as the modern human form itself. How much did that dependency matter? Before any form of skilled attendance, the estimated baseline maternal mortality sits at roughly 1,500 deaths per 100,000 births. One woman in 67, per delivery, have 5 children, and the accumulated odds of not surviving approach 1 in 14. Some communities would have lost a woman to childbirth nearly every year. In pre-industrial England, after centuries of accumulated midwifery knowledge, the rate had fallen to around 1,000 per 100,000. In the United States today, it is approximately 23.23. That gap, from 1,500 to 23, is not primarily explained by surgery or medication. Someone in the room was not sentiment. It was the variable that determined whether a woman lived. Who was in the room? In every traditional human society that anthropologists have studied in depth, birth is attended by women who know what they are doing, not institutionally certified, but experienced. In hunter-gatherer communities, a woman giving birth for the first time had already witnessed dozens of deliveries. Her mothers, her sisters, her companions. She knew what normal progression looked like. She knew what a dangerous delay sounded like. She knew how to position a woman in difficulty and how to wait without panicking. She also knew when something was beyond what hands and knowledge could fix. That knowledge moved orally, through watching, through doing, through being handed from one generation to the next. No text preserved it. No monuments marked it. The oldest organized professional knowledge in the history of our species did not begin when someone wrote it down. It began when someone first stayed. The record, when it survives, confirms how long this has been true, and how often it failed. In 1997, archaeologists excavating a prehistoric cemetery near Irkutsk, Siberia, found the skeleton of a young woman, Positioned at her pelvis were the remains of two fetuses. She had died giving birth to twins. Carbon dating places the burial between 7,725 and 7,630 years ago. The care of her grave suggests she was mourned. In Egypt, around 2050 BCE, the mummified remains of a woman identified as Queen Henhenit carried a vesicovaginal fistula, an internal wound from obstructed labor. She survived some version of that birth. Many others did not. The Westcar Papyrus, from approximately 1700 BCE, describes birth chairs and midwifery practice. The Ebers Papyrus, from around 1550 BCE, records treatments for perineal lacerations and methods to accelerate a slow delivery. That knowledge was already refined and tested long before anyone decided it was worth writing down. Here is the deepest layer of this story, the part that changes the whole picture. Because a human baby arrives so neurologically incomplete, it requires something no other primate demands to the same degree: sustained, organized communal care. 18 months before it can walk on its own, years before it can forage or feed itself. The mother who survived the birth then needed ongoing support, food, protection, help, just to keep this helpless infant alive. The birth attendant did not leave when the baby arrived. She was the first link in a chain of community investment. The obstetrical dilemma was not solved by biology alone. It was partially solved by culture, by networks of women who kept showing up for each other, kept passing on what they knew, kept staying. Go back to that machine in the delivery room. The fetal heart monitor is, at most, a few decades old, but the heartbeat it measures, that signal, that narrow window between safety and loss, humans have been listening for it since long before there was a word for what they were doing. Every person alive passed through this same problem. A too narrow passage, a baby that had to turn to get through, a mother who could not reach it alone. They made it because someone was there, not a surgeon, not a hospital. Someone who had seen it before, who knew what they were doing, who stayed. Your mother made it because someone was there. And if you are ever that person, in a room anywhere, holding someone's hand while they go through the hardest thing a human body can do, understand that you are not playing a supporting role. You are practicing the oldest form of human intelligence we have evidence for. The machine is new. The knowledge behind it is not. If this is the kind of history that gets under your skin, the kind that changes how you see your own body, you're in the right place.